really loud. Hi, welcome to episode 3. Episode 3 of Talk to the Redhead Girl with me. With me, Cherry Jenny. Oh my god, everything's beeping. We are off to a great start, people. Great start. Oh, my blood sugars are extremely low. Right. Hello. My blood sugars are in fact low. I'm gonna eat my glucotabs. They're these little things. And they are so chalky, but they make you like drool. They make you drool. It's the only thing that I can use to explain it. And they're not that nice either. I strictly get raspberry flavour because I have like orange, and I'm sure I've seen a lemon and lime one before, which was really weird. And blackcurrant and raspberry. Orange, I'm not a big fan of. I don't like orange flavoured things. I don't really like oranges. So, they're not for me. Yeah, these are just like pure sugar, basically. I want to start this with a few disclaimers. Okay? I'm going to give a few trigger warnings because there's a lot to unpack, and I just want to keep you guys, in the right headspace and be mindful of what I'm about to say. So, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault, self-harm, suicide attempts, and mental illness. And this is all about young me, basically. Not too young. Well, I was about 14. I think it was just after my 14th birthday when I got with this person. And I'm not going to be naming him at all because there's no need to. There's no need to. He knows who he is, and if he for some reason sees this, fuck you. Anyway, so when I was about 14, I started seriously dating this boy that I had been in like an on and off relationship with since like year 7. So 11 years old, just like, kids in high school. Like, my friend wants to know if you'll go out with her, and it's like, yeah, sure. And then it's like a week, and it's like, I love you, and then go away. Do you know what I mean? Those kind of relationships. But I think it was just after we'd come out of all the lockdowns. So I think I was in year 9 at this point. So yeah, about 14 years old. I started seeing this guy who was in my class. He was my age. I'm saying it like he's an older guy. He was not an older guy at all. But I started seeing him, and this was genuinely my first ever proper relationship. So we got together in the September time, and for up until just after Christmas, 2022, I want to say, Christmas 2022, just after that, up until that point, everything had been absolutely fine. There was no problems, there was no arguments, there was nothing. There was, however, a lot of accusations thrown at me by him. He was always worried that I was talking to someone else, or I was going to find better, and that I was cheating on him, basically. And at this point in time, I was in London visiting my family with my cousin. And I'm gonna be so honest, because she was genuinely the only reason why I didn't just break down sobbing throughout this whole trip, because she just made it funny. She made it a joke. She just took the mick because she knew how stupid it was, and she saw how upset I was getting, and she's my best friend and my cousin, so of course she's gonna try and make me laugh. I love her to pieces. I love you, Izzy. And so yeah, that up until about December, the only problem that we ever had was in October. And by the way, I'm so sorry, my health comes first. I don't know why I'm doing that. Like it's gonna change anything. Anyhow, so up until after Christmas, no problems. Except for his brother gave me COVID on Christmas Eve. So I spent Christmas and New Year's locked in my room away from my own family because I had COVID. And then after COVID hit, my COVID was done, whatever the fuck it was. COVID was fucking horrible for me, and I don't know if that's just because I have an autoimmune problem. It genuinely felt like it was going to kill me. I thought, oh my god, this is it, every single fucking minute of every day. So I just spat everywhere. What's it called? Gleeking? When it like shoots water out from underneath your tongue? That, I fucking hate it. I can't do it voluntarily, but it does it all the time by itself. Anyway, so yeah, 2 weeks of isolation, and I was back in school. I was back seeing my boyfriend. I was back with my friends. And yeah, everything was going fine until late January, when he became very passive aggressive. Is the only thing that he wasn't. It was never like direct aggression. It was, he'd get angry and hit a wall, or say that he was going to hit a wall if we were messaging. It was very much like the warning signs of abuse. It was the warning signs. He was hitting walls, telling me about all of the times that he'd punched things, and that I made him punch things because I made him angry. It was all just shit like that. The little 14-year-old me didn't see as a problem. I just thought, oh, that must just be how they get their anger out. He's a teenage boy, you know, they've got testosterone and shit. Nuh-uh, girl. Nuh-uh. So I didn't take much notice of this. I didn't really care. I thought that was just normal, and now I know it's not, because very quickly he went from punching other things to hitting me and injuring me. I'd get hit in places where bruises wouldn't be seen, like my back or my ribs or my stomach even, because I was very insecure because of him. He thought if I wore anything slightly provocative, like if I wore this shirt when I was that age with him, I would have been ridiculed because I was tempting other men and shit like that. Like, he was just very, very insecure and did not want me to show off my body. So he bruised me. I'd have them on my stomach, my ribs, my back, and even a few times I had them around my wrists and my neck, which I will get into in a minute. And I thought that was fine. I thought it was fine because, you know, he wasn't really hurting me. He was just punching me. It was a slap around the face maybe, or a kick in the back, or a punch in the ribs. It was never like he drew blood or he broke something or fractured something. It was never something that I considered abuse. I thought it was, you know, He's just getting his anger out. It's my fault. I made him angry. I just didn't realize that those things weren't right. I didn't know that, the things that I was doing to make him angry, I was just being a person, and he didn't like that. So it got worse. And I remember a few people asking me about specifically the bruises around my wrists. I had the school counsellor ask me about it. Counsellor, wellness officer, whatever she was. I love her. Thank you, Miss Steele. You have my heart. I love you. I couldn't do that then. Even she questioned me on it because it wasn't something that was like, normal for me. Sorry, my phone's low battery. So it wasn't something that was like, normal. It wasn't the typical me to have bruises all over myself. And then hello. Sorry about this. I didn't realize that my microphone wasn't on, and I'm gonna have to do this as a voiceover. So I'm gonna try my very best to lip read my own video and talk over it. So he put his hands around my throat, and both hands, and he, for the very first time, he strangled me. He put his hands around my throat and squeezed because he was angry at me. He wanted to hurt me, and I passed out. I turned purple and I passed out. And when I awoke, my shorts and my underwear were both gone, and I knew what had happened to me. I just didn't want to accept it. And this was the very first time that I had very, very prominent bruising around my neck. And I covered it up. I hid it the best way that I could. I caked it in foundation, colour corrector, concealer, powder, everything to try and hide it. I'd even started to use fake tan to try and hide the bruising that just was consistent, because he proceeded to strangle me a lot. Never to the same extent that he did the very first time, but he would strangle me. He would strangle me to the point of barely being conscious. And it became a very common thing in our relationship. It wasn't always both hands. A lot of the time it was only one. But it was horrifying and scary every single time nonetheless. And yeah, I didn't really know what to do. And he became extremely insecure. He wouldn't let me wear specific clothes because if I was showing off too much skin, he thought somebody else would like me and try and steal me away from him. And I was already struggling quite severely with anorexia, and I developed bulimia because I had to eat. I'm diabetic. I had to convince people I was eating, and I became bulimic. I would throw up after every single meal, and no one knew. I'm really sorry that a lot of this is stuff that I don't remember saying, because I filmed this and I'm literally in the middle of editing, and I've noticed that my microphone wasn't on throughout the whole thing. It was like it's a good few minutes. Hold on, let's find out how long it is. It's a good at least 5 minutes. It's about 7 minutes, and I'm gonna have to edit it all out, so this will probably be over just a freeze frame or something, and a lot of it was just me telling about the strangulation and how much he borderline, what I feel now was hatred towards me. Even though I hadn't ever done anything to him, he hurt me in a way that somebody would to somebody they hated and they wanted to kill. He made me feel like that was love. And regardless of all the beatings and the sexual abuse I faced, I believed him. I believed that he loved me, and I believed that this was right. I'm gonna press play on the actual video now. So, I'm really sorry about this. Only anorexia, I was also suffering with extreme bulimia, and nobody really knew about this because I didn't tell anyone. I didn't show it. And the only people that really picked up on it were the teachers that would do the lunch, like, canteen monitoring. They'd see me throwing away sandwiches or throwing away food or buying food just to give it to somebody else. And they questioned me a few times. And every time I was just like, oh, I'm not really hungry. Or the sandwich was bad. Or there was something on it that I couldn't eat. And yeah, no one really noticed. So I was extremely malnourished. At the time, I was about 48 kilograms, which that's malnourished. That's extremely malnourished. And I couldn't fight him off. I physically couldn't. I didn't have the strength nor size to do anything. So I suffered. I sat there and I cried. And this was when I did shout. He picked up my insulin pen and asked me how much it would take to kill him. He picked up my medical equipment and asked me how much it would take to kill him. I became furious. At this point, I wasn't upset and I wasn't scared. I was angry because how dare you do something like that to me and then ask me how to use my own medical equipment to kill yourself. I was furious. I was screaming. I was shouting. I was throwing things at him. I was livid. I was so angry. And he sat there and he cried. He cried and begged me to stop yelling. And my mum came up and she took me into her room. She sat me there and she told me, I will speak to you in a minute. I am so disappointed. And she walked into my room where Isaac was. And her first thing was to, get him home. So that's what she was going to do. She was going to walk him home. And this infuriated me because of what he'd just done. And I started screaming at my mother. I was furious at her because how could she help him in any way? And while I was screaming at her, he walked out of my house. He just left and didn't go home. And at this point, I was scared because he was messaging me very fucking cryptic shit and saying that he was heading to the beach and that no one would find him and he was going to leave his phone on a bench so that they wouldn't be able to track him. So we called his parents. And I ran around. I was calling everybody he knew. Everyone I knew. Anybody that could have possibly seen him, I phoned. While I was running around town, the whole town, at 8:30, in the middle of winter, by myself. I ran away from my mother to try and find him because I was scared that he was going to die, and I thought it would be my fault because of the way that I reacted. So I eventually found him, and I dragged him back to my house where his mother was waiting outside for him. And I didn't tell anyone anything. I just stayed quiet. And I thought maybe he won't do that again now. Scenes of what happened. Maybe he won't do it again. And I chose to ignore what happened to me. And I thought it was okay because he clearly wasn't in a good mental state because he tried to take his own life. At least he threatened to. And this would become a common theme throughout everything, throughout every argument, every time I tried to break up with him, at anything, he would threaten to end his own life. And this broke me. This broke me so many times because I was a 14-year-old girl being told that he was going to kill himself because of me, because of I didn't want to be with him, or because I was done arguing with him, or because I'd grown angry and resentful for everything that he'd started to do to me. Because it wasn't a one-time thing. It happened 8 or 9 times throughout the course of our relationship, which was only 9 months. It was like September to not even April. And he repeatedly abused me. He repeatedly sexually abused me. And after the second time it happened, I told my best friend that it took me having to lie to even get to her because he wouldn't leave my side. He wouldn't give me a chance to speak to anybody at this point. After the second time he did it, he threatened to kill himself. He wouldn't give me a minute to myself. Sorry, I got a message off my boyfriend. So constantly, I was stuck with him. I couldn't escape. And eventually, I hid in the well-being room where he followed me. And I told one of the well-being officers, I needed to go to the bathroom because my friend needed a tampon emergency, like ASAP. And he said that he'd come with me and wait outside the toilets. And I said, no, it's okay. I can do it. And they made sure that he stayed there. And I ran to the bathroom. Obviously, she didn't need a tampon. And I told her what he did to me. And she looked at me, and that was the first time that I knew what he was doing wasn't okay. Because my best friend was also dating his best friend. And that's not how their relationship went at all. And that was the moment that I realised it wasn't normal. Sorry, coffee. So she came back to the wellbeing room with me, and she helped me tell one of the officers and make a report of it. But I didn't want to do anything about it. I just needed somebody to know. I needed somebody to know that I wasn't going to be safe, that I could potentially be in danger. So there was a report made on it, and over the following months, it happened 8 more times, 8 or 9 times, and every single time I was either home alone, intoxicated, or intoxicated at somebody else's house. There were 2 separate times. Once was we'd had a little gathering, and I drank basically a whole bottle of gin. I do not condone drinking that much gin. Drink fucking responsibly. How I didn't have liver failure, I don't know. It's beyond me. Don't do that. And he came into the bathroom while I was throwing up, waited till I'd stopped, sat on the toilet seat, and tried to get me to suck his dick. It didn't take long for me to try and get away from him, where he'd pick me up and pushed me against the wall and was trying to make out with me. And then my friends came in, they burst through the door, and they thought it was quite funny because they didn't understand the extent of the situation. They just saw my belt undone and, he was kissing me. So, unbeknownst to them, they'd actually saved me. And that was just the first time it happened at that person's house. He tried it multiple times at that person's house, and I couldn't tell anyone. I was scared to. What if my friends didn't believe me? And then it happened at my best. I am so sorry. It happened at my best friend's boyfriend's house. His best friend's house. Me and her had gotten drunk while they were playing a game or something. I don't remember what they were doing. I just remember sitting with my best friend and sipping on fucking orange and Bacardi. It was disgusting. I hate Bacardi so much. And he took me into the bathroom, which was a very, very small. It wasn't a bathroom. It was a toilet. It was about 4 foot by 2 foot with a toilet and a sink. And he took me in there, and he sat on the toilet seat, and I was in a skirt. Conveniently enough, I was in a skirt, and he pulled me into his lap and forced himself into me and raped me in his best friend. Yeah, I was in a skirt, and he raped me in his best friend's bathroom. And it was sort of after that, a few weeks after that, that I decided that I wanted to call things off. I was done. I spoke to people. I was done being abused constantly by somebody who I thought loved me. So I ended things, and that didn't work. He showed up at our friend's house, Marshall, and the whole group was there. All of the bathroom ballers were there. And he showed up at his door asking for me. And I was upstairs crying, and Marshall went down and lost his shit. You could hear him yelling from upstairs. And I'm gonna bleep that, I'm gonna bleep that, I'm gonna bleep that, I'm gonna bleep that, I'm gonna bleep that. I did not mean to say his name. I'm gonna bleep that. Yeah, he ran away. And then I got a plethora of messages saying that he was gonna end his life. So I just sent it to his mother, who asked me to go and look for him because he was supposed to be babysitting his brothers, his 2 brothers. And she wasn't home, neither was his father. So I didn't go fucking look for him. Sorry if the quality looks any different. My iPhone storage is full and it won't let me record, so I'm using my Snapchat camera. But yeah, I walked home, and on this walk home, I bumped into none other than him. And I called his mum. She showed up in the car. She picked him up. I refused the ride home because I don't want to fucking sit in a car with him. And I went home. And he got a lot of messages from the bathroom ballers demanding an apology to me because they knew what happened. They now knew everything he did. Well, most of what he did. Kind of baseline what he did. Most of them. But some of them knew everything. Some of them knew a little bit. Some of them knew baseline. And that was how I wanted it. I didn't want everybody to know everything. I only wanted the people that I was closest to know. And they all demanded an apology from him to me. That he did. He sent me a massive paragraph apology, admitting that everything he'd done. He apologized for everything he'd done. And funnily enough, because I'd spoke to the school about what had happened to me, they held a meeting with the headmistress, the deputy head, who was the one that arranged this meeting and did the whole speaking, the wellness officer, me and my mother and my head of year, and my diabetic nurse, for whatever reason. And they basically, well, the deputy head told my mother everything. Right then and there, she told my mother everything. And I just had to sit there in fucking horror as this woman told my mother about how I'd been abused and sexually abused for the past 8 or 9 months. And she was horrified. And we got asked, do you want to take this to the police? And we said no. We wanted time to think about it. And less than 2 days later, the police were at my door. And I had to give countless statements and I had to tell the story of what happened to me in grave detail over and over and over again. And he pled not guilty. And regardless of the screenshots of him telling me what he'd done and apologizing for it, they didn't class that as evidence. And he did this to another girl, and attempted to do it to another girl. 2 different girls separately. Yeah, he went on to do it to multiple. Well, he did it successfully to another girl and attempted it to another. And the girl that he did it to again also went to the police about it and was told the same thing. Lack of evidence. Surely if 2 girls have come forward telling you that this guy is not a good guy, that's evidence. I didn't know her, and I wasn't allowed to speak to her after I'd found out this information because it could affect both of our cases. And both of our cases went absolutely nowhere, which is one of the many reasons I have no fucking faith in the justice system and in police or courts or anything like that in general. They are all shit. They're all shit. That's all I can say about it. They are just shit. They don't actually care for helping women out at all. Cause what the fuck? Like I just laugh about it every time I think or talk about it because that's all there is to say. What the fuck? And everyone I tell this to, same reaction. What the fuck? Because he admitted it. I had a whole paragraph from him admitting it. But it wasn't evidence. It wasn't enough evidence. So, yeah. I was a very suicidal teenager because of that. And throughout my relationship with him, I attempted to take my own life several times. Several times in 8 or 9 months as a 14-year-old girl. And that breaks my heart because I was so young. I didn't deserve any of that. No one deserves any of that. And I'm just angry. I've grieved everything. I'm over it. But I'm angry because he still gets to walk about. After what he did to me and that other girl, he still gets to walk free. Yes, he is now a registered sex offender, but he didn't get anything for it. He faced nothing. Just a little mark on his record. And that isn't justice. Not for what I went through. That was not what I deserved to get. And it's not what anyone deserves. And if you know of people that do this, or you associate with abusers, you're just as fucking bad. And you are just as a disgusting human as they are. And if you defend their actions, you're no better. You are the problem. And with that, I hope you enjoyed listening to my very sob story. So sad. I'm sorry if I seem very emotionally switched off to it. I am. It's been 2 years. I'm as over it as one can be. Obviously, it has affected my life in such a huge way, and is the root cause of a lot of my mental issues, but I don't let it control me, because it doesn't. It doesn't define who I am. I'm not a victim of abuse. I am a fucking survivor. I survived hell. I survived hell. I was abused and literally used as a 14-year-old girl for some sick, perverted boy who I thought loved me. And with that, I'm gonna say goodbye. And if you or anybody else is in a domestic case or doesn't feel safe in a situation with their partner, or they're fearing for their safety, sometimes even their life, if that is you or anybody else that you know, please, please, please do not stay silent. Do not let them stay silent. Save them while you can, because before you know it, it will be too late for that poor girl or boy, because boys go through this as well. But if you know anybody that is in a domestically violent relationship, anyone that's being sexually abused, or if you think that they might be, reach out to them and talk to them, because you could save their life with just one conversation, showing that you support them, that you care, and you can stand by them through this. Then you could save their life. You could be the reason that they escape. And no one deserves it. So please, 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 if you or anybody you know is in a domestically violent relationship, speak up. Speak out. Speak up and out against our abusers, because they don't control us. There are plenty of support systems, websites, phone numbers that you can call, people that you can speak to, resources that you can find that can help you or somebody else survive a domestic case. I was very lucky, as most cases, about 70% of cases, once a man lays his hands on you, around your neck, and strangles you, the chances of you surviving the next time he does that are so slim. And it is so, so scary. And nobody deserves to go through that. Nobody deserves to go through it alone. So speak up, speak out, name and shame if you want. Just don't stay silent and let the abusers win. Because we need change for our children, for our grandchildren, for our sisters, for our brothers, for our nieces and nephews. We need a change, because this sick, horrible life isn't okay. We need to put a stop to it, guys. So stand together, speak out, shout it from the rooftops. Do not be a victim. Be a survivor, and keep fighting for everything that you want, everything that you deserve in life. And with that, bye guys. I love you all. I'll see you next week.